Shannon Brandt, the individual charged in the murder now of Cayler Ellingson. You see Shannon here in his orange. He is in court now on new charges. Murder. Previously, we had talked about this case. It was vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of an accident, but it involved the death of this young man. He was 18 years old at the time. Cayler Ellingson. He was run over by Mr. Brandt, and it was a tragic story. We read through the probable cause statement, a horrific thing. I mean, what happened was this young man apparently was considered to be a MAGA extremist Republican by Mr. Brandt. All of that was in the original probable cause statement, and there was an ordeal, an incident. Cayler Ellingson was apparently fleeing the scene when he was run over, and apparently intentionally so, by Mr. Brandt. Now, there was a booking photo the first time that Mr. Brandt got booked. If you recall, when he went in on the original charges, he had a $50,000 bond. You saw this here, the screenshot from the actual docket entry out in Foster County saying that Mr. Brandt was charged with criminal vehicular homicide and DUI, a death involving the injury, set there at a $50,000 bond. Now, that was before the murder charges were filed, and there was not any real additional reason to hold him. So the judge set the $50,000 bond, he posted it, and then he was released. This was a quick clip. We had talked about this one previously. This clip was from Mr. Brandt when he was in court for the first arraignment, and he was very confused at that time. He is now back in custody. He may have posted bond, but his bond was raised from $50,000 up to $1 million, right? It goes up dramatically when you're talking about murder charges.
Saying he's not a flight risk.
A job and a life and a house and things that I don't exactly want to see, go by the wayside.
Now he is facing new charges. The original charge is only vehicular homicide, but now those have gone up into murder. And so we've got two documents we'll take a look at before we check in with Donald Trump's reaction responding to Cayler Ellingson's death. We're going to take a look at the new charges from the criminal information. This is the case against Shannon Brandt, charged in the killing of Cayler Ellingson. You can see the criminal information filed in the state of North Dakota out of the Southeast Judicial District, telling us Foster County State Attorney, after being sworn in, commits that the following has occurred in our state. Count 1, murder with a dangerous weapon. The dangerous weapon, as we're going to see, of course, is the vehicle. On or about the 18th day of September in Foster County, North Dakota, in violation of the law, the defendant, here Shannon Brandt, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of another human being. In this case, that was Cayler Ellingson. Defendant willingly caused the death of another human being under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life. Oftentimes in the law, when we're studying murder, we call that sort of a depraved murder. It's something that is so calloused, this extreme indifference. And just running over somebody, it's like, my goodness, that is obviously somebody's going to die. You don't value human life if you do that stuff. It says that said offense was committed when the defendant, Mr. Brandt, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of another human being and caused the death under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, specifically saying that Mr. Brandt intentionally drove over CE, which is, of course, is Cayler Ellingson, with a dangerous weapon, namely his motor vehicle, a Ford Explorer, causing CE's death. And I'm wondering if there's a missing and there. Intentionally struck and drove over CE with a dangerous weapon. Paragraph 4 says that's a violation of the law. It's a class AA felony for a first offense. They're also charging him with count 2, the obligation and a duty when there is an accident involving a death. They say on or about the same date, September 18th, Mr. Brandt drove a vehicle in an accident resulting in the death of a person and negligently failed to immediately stop or return with the vehicle as close as possible and render aid as required in North Dakota. That offense was committed when Brandt drove a vehicle involved in a crash. It struck the victim, Cayler Ellingson, resulting in his death. And then Mr. Brandt intentionally fled the scene, did not immediately call for assistance or render aid, did not do any of the requirements under the law. Guilty of a Class B felony, all in violation of North Dakota law against the peace and dignity of the state. Signed by Kara Brinster, Foster County State's Attorney's Office. Now, they tell us that the penalty for that serious charge, the Class AA felony, is a maximum penalty of life imprisonment without parole. Okay, so a potential life term. Court must designate whether those sentences are with or without the opportunity for parole. A person found guilty of a felony that's AA who receives a life imprisonment shall not be eligible to have that sentence considered for parole for 30 years. Pretty serious penalty there. Less sentence reduction fee earned for good conduct. Now, they have the 85% rule. I mean, you only serve about 85% of your time if you do, good behavior. You can see here's the finding of the probable cause statement as to both counts. And we're going to look at this next. Signed here, sufficient information that probable cause exists for count 1 and for count 2, signed off by the judge of the district court saying, yep, charge him. Perfect. There it is. James D. Hovey, judge of the district court. So that is the information. That is the charging document. We've got those 2 additional charges, and they are noticing all of these witnesses here at the outset, right? So these are all the potential people that the government could call in their case against State versus Brandt. A lot of people involved in this. Wow. All right, let's see who's here. We've got some sergeants. We've got 4, a lot of sergeants. Chief of police, troopers. We have a representative from the hospital. We have 2 other troopers, Thomas name, Sheriff Sergeant. We have some of the Ellingson family, which is just terrible. They got some of the Brandt family, right? So maybe they called, the investigators spoke with with family members of the Brandt family. We've got special agents maybe over from the FBI, other just names of, random people that I don't recognize. Budget Auto Services, and then random names. All of these names, I don't think they don't stand out at all in any way. So big witness list, but as you would expect. And as the case progresses, right, this involved a death. There's, autopsy and all sorts of death reports and stuff. So all of that will eventually come out. You can see the list continues on. 3 additional special agents. The rest of the names don't recognize there. But that is the information. And so that's going to be, what brings the charges. And what happened here, my understanding is that they actually dismissed the other 2 charges. So if you're going to be charging him with murder, you don't actually have to charge him with vehicular homicide because it's sort of a lesser offense. You can see that those other 2 charges will go away. They'll focus on the murder. Now let's take a look at the actual affidavit because this is where some of the meat and potatoes comes into play. This is the affidavit against Shannon Brandt, charged with murder in the killing of Cayler Ellingson. It's 4 pages long, coming out of the North Dakota court. And it is written by this fellow, Jeremy Quam. And he is somebody who is a special agent out of North Dakota. And he says, all right, court, I've been sworn and I state to the court as follows. I am a special agent out of North Dakota. And back on September 18th, I got a 911 call. I'm sorry, state radio did. During the 911 call, Shannon Brandt told state radio, that's dispatch, that Shannon hit a man with his vehicle and requested an ambulance. Cayler Ellingson was later identified as being the individual who was struck by Shannon. During the 911 call, the dispatcher asked Shannon routine questions about the location of the incident and the condition that the individual was in that he struck. While Shannon was on the phone with the state radio, Shannon made comments regarding the incident being intentional and not an accident. Some of these statements to the dispatcher were, quote, I just want to ask you a question. Am I going to go to prison? Probably. The dispatcher asked Shannon Brandt that, quote, he wouldn't let your vehicle go, and then what happened? So 911 call says, wait a minute, what? He wouldn't let your vehicle go? And like he was standing in front of you in your way? So what happened? Shannon Brandt says, yes, I just tried to take off and he wasn't going to let me go. I hit him. I didn't mean to. And he subdued and I was scared to death, but he subdued. He can't do anything to me now. So this is why I'm calling you. I mean, I almost just run away, but I thought, geez, obviously if it was a total accident, I wouldn't be scared, but I know it was more than that. Shannon Brandt informed the state radio that Cayler Ellingson made phone calls to other people, and Shannon Brandt was worried these people were on their way to the scene of the accident. Shannon Brandt also said that Cayler wouldn't let him leave and made a phone call to someone saying something to the effect of, "You're going to have to come here and handle him." Saying that Calyer Ellingson picked up the phone and said, "I'm calling my buddies and hey, come here. There's this guy. Come here and handle him." During the investigation, Cayler Ellingson's phone was forensically downloaded on September 18, 2022 from the hours of 2 a.m. to 2:42 a.m., 42-minute time. Cayler Ellingson only received and placed calls to his mother, Sherry, and his father, Cole. Pray for those two people right now. Sherry and Cole. They lost their son, Cayler. So Cayler's out late at night. He calls mom and dad. Shannon thinks that Cayler's calling, I guess, a roving band of MAGA extremists and decides to run him over. Prior to law enforcement arriving on scene, Shannon Brandt left the area of the incident and went home to his residence in Glenfield, North Dakota. North Dakota Highway Patrol Andrew Cashin, Foster County Sheriff Sergeant Cruz went to Glenfield and contacted Shannon Brandt at his residence. Shannon Brandt was visibly intoxicated and told Sergeant Cashin that he hit Cayler Ellingson. Made a big admission directly to the officer. Shannon Brandt was arrested and transported to Stuntsman Co. Correctional Facility. During the Highway Patrol accident investigation, there was no acceleration marks or skid marks in the gravel alley where Cayler was found. No brakes. On September 19th, an autopsy of Cayler was conducted at the University of North Dakota, the Forensic Pathology Center, by Dr. Kevin Malley. After the autopsy was completed, Dr. Malley informed Special Agent Jeremy Quam, that's me, the nature and the manner of injuries of Cayler Ellingson, and that what he received indicates that Cayler Ellingson was on the ground when he received those injuries. He was already on the ground. Dr. Malley indicated this means the injuries weren't caused from being struck by Shannon Brandt's vehicle and were caused by being ran over. During the processing of Brandt's Ford Explorer, Special Agent Jeremy Quam found that there was little to no damage to the front of Shannon Brandt's Explorer. The only damage observed were 5 small cracks in the driver's side grille. Special Agent Kelly Wilmer and Special Agent Jeremy Quam, they interviewed Sherry Ellingson, mom, and Cole Ellingson, dad, who are the parents of Cayler. Sherry said she received a phone call from Cayler September 18th at 2:27 a.m. During the phone call, Cayler told mom that Shannon asked who Cayler's parents were. Cayler said he told Shannon and Shannon said he knew who they were. Cayler asked if Sherry Ellingson knew Shannon Brandt. So they're out 2 a.m. They're having an argument. And Shannon says, "Who are your parents?" And he says, "Sherry Ellingson and my dad, Cole." And Shannon says, "I know them." On September 18th, same day, 2:34 a.m., Cayler calls Sherry. During this call, Sherry mom recalled Cayler telling her that maybe he should call his cousins or posse. Oh. Sherry said at that point she didn't know if Cayler was feeling threatened. Sherry told Cayler that he didn't need to do that and that she was on her way to pick up Cayler. So the son is in a situation, calls mom, says, "Hey, this guy's going crazy. Mom, what should I do? Should I call my cousins?" And mom says, "No, don't worry about that. I'm on my way to pick you up." At 2:41, Sherry and Cole Ellingson, so mom and dad, both had missed calls from Cayler. 2:41 in the morning, missed call. 2:42, Ellingson received a call from Cayler. During this call, Cayler told his mother something to the effect of, "They are after me," or "He is after me." Sherry Ellingson said the phone call dropped and that was the last time she spoke with Cayler. There were no other incoming or outgoing calls after this. Nothing further. Signed by Jeremy Quam. Submitted September 29th. Murder charges against Shannon Brandt. And that's a very interesting indictment there, or that's the affidavit of the probable cause statement. And you can see what this special agent did. He left that big bombshell, that big dropper right there. That's that big meaty potato that you just, oh, it's just wow. You just slam that down when you're filing that. Yeah, the last time mom spoke with her son is when he was dying on the ground because he got run over, screaming that they're after him. Horrible thing. And prayers for him and his family and everybody who's involved. May he rest in peace. What a horrific thing. And unfortunately, there's going to be more of this, as the political volume continues to escalate in this country. We're going to see more claims that every single person who doesn't believe in the traditional orthodoxy of the left is now a MAGA extremist, insurrectionist, Republican, homegrown violence extremist, ultra MAGA, death to America, whatever. And when you say that from the rooftops, we know that they were very upset when Donald Trump said, fight like hell. They said that was the end of America. Meanwhile, they're screaming and doing entire speeches, castigating an entire side of the population as the worst that America has ever seen. What's going to happen when that continues on? Probably more of this. We have Donald Trump reacting. Trump reacts to Cayler Ellingson, saying that this would be an entirely different story if this had been an alternative demographic. If Shannon Brandt had been a Republican instead of a lefty, if Shannon Brandt had been scared of some other MAGA Republican and the tides had turned, then maybe the media would cover it. Trump recognizes they're not. Trump knows there's a double standard, and here he is discussing it at one of his rallies.
Just recently, a young 18-year-old man from North Dakota, I'm sure you read this over the last 2 days, named Cayler Ellingson, a young man, so handsome, beautiful, 18 years old, was targeted and killed, run down in cold blood with an SUV by a radical left maniac. He was a radical left, stupid person, simply because he was a Republican, and he was so proud of being a Republican. And this guy ran him down, and not one mainstream media network has even mentioned this horrible crime. Think of it.
They ignored it.
Think of it the other way. Think of it the other way. Supposing a MAGA person ran down somebody on the other side, it'd be the biggest story you've ever seen. It's a disgrace.
Wall-to-wall
you
coverage.
People should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah.
You should be ashamed
Yeah,
of
media.
yourself.
Yeah, media.
And
Finger wag at
go
you.
Out to the parents and the friends. This young boy, this was a young man, wonderful, with a great future. And I'm just telling you, just so handsome and so beautiful and so great. And he got run down by a radical left nut job.
At the behest of the inflamed political rhetoric that continues to be promulgated by those in charge because it serves them. And my friends, that is what is the latest update out of the Shannon Brandt case. Of course, if there's anything new and interesting to cover, we will certainly do that. Thank you for subscribing to this channel and liking this video before you watch the next one. I look forward to seeing you right there.